It is only bees recognize the scent of the flower. Dear brothers and sisters, today's Gospel is taken from Mark chapter 6, verses 30 to 34. The context of the Gospel is this. In Mark chapter 6, verses 7 to 13, we read about Jesus sending his apostles for a mission. Verse 7 states, "He called to him the 12 and began to send them out 2 by 2 and gave them authority over the unclean spirits. So the apostles went out to preach, to heal, and to cast out demons." When they came back from this mission experience, Jesus, understanding his disciples well, leads them to a lonely place. Paying attention to the minute details in the Gospel gives enriched understanding here. Let us observe the behavior of Jesus here. Verse 30 says, "When the apostles returned, they told him all that they had done and taught." This shows that Jesus was a good listener. He listens carefully to every detail the apostles were narrating. He does not rush with his program or timetable. Rather, he was empathetic towards them. Only after that we find he takes them to a lonely place for some rest. Theophylact of Ohrid, a famous 11th century biblical commentator, says, "Let us also learn when we are sent on any mission not to go far away and not to overstep the bonds of office committed, but to go often to him who sends us and report all that we have done and taught. For we must not only teach but act." This brings us to the second reflection, that is, the need for rest. In the Old Testament, we have detailed explanations on the need for rest. Genesis chapter 2, verse 2 says, "In 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed." Exodus 31:15 teaches us the observance of the Sabbath day. It states, "6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, holy to the Lord." Leviticus 25 teaches us the importance of sabbatical year. 6 years you shall sow your field, prune your vineyard, but in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of solemn rest for the land. So also, in today's Gospel, we find Jesus takes his disciples for a much needed rest. It is not to waste time, but to recuperate. Because there is a danger of a too constant activity. Pope John Paul II, on his visit to Ireland, addressing the priest, he said, "A constant danger with priests, even the zealous priests, is that they become so immersed in the work of the Lord that they neglect the Lord of the work." Let us learn to rest with the Lord. We must also remember that the rest is not just to sleep, but a prayerful reflection. Lastly, yet again, we find Jesus and his disciples are surrounded by the throng of people. Besides being an empathetic leader, Jesus is also a great pastor who understands the need of his people. Though Jesus and disciples were in a deserted place, we find they are surrounded by people. The fragrance of holiness spreads even in the deserted places. Over the centuries, we have many examples. The desert fathers like Saint Anthony the Desert, Pachomius, and many others left everything and went to the deserts. But after some years, we find them surrounded by people wanting to live like them. When there was no sophisticated media and social communication, how did the people know that monks were living in a faraway deserts? It is only bees recognize the scent of the flower. Dear brothers and sisters, like Jesus, let us be human. Let us understand the needs of one another, especially of those who depend on us. In our families, in our workplaces, in our neighborhoods, let us love one another wholeheartedly and make this world a better place to live in.